This video has been sponsored by Stereo. Click the link at the top of the description to download Stereo today and enjoy more shows just like this one. Hello, Pokemon Masters, Birdkeeper Toby here, and you are listening to the Wants to Battle show live on Stereo, or for this very special episode, perhaps on YouTube. Wants to Battle is a live show where I, a Pokemon fanatic, reach out and search the land far and wide for other Pokemon fans to chat with and gain their knowledge and expertise. Stereo have actually sponsored this show, as well as a few others that you can listen to right now. Last week, I sat down with Hoops and Hip Hop to talk about creating a new Pokemon region. And next week, on Saturday the 13th at 6 p.m. GMT, I'll be chatting to the founder of Serebii.net, Mr. Serebii Joe, about what it's like to cover the news during a Pokemon reveal cycle. For today's show, however, I'm joined by Mr. TrueGreen7, otherwise known simply as Ron, a colleague and friend of mine, notable in his own right for his YouTube channel, which is fast approaching 700,000 subscribers. Ron is a lover of Pokemon art, music, and storytelling, and today I want to ask him about his hopes and expectations for Pokemon Day, which is coming later this month. And again, I want to say thank you to Stereo for sponsoring this episode, and if you'd like to check out Ron or Stereo, you can do so using the links in the description of the video. I think that's the professional intro covered. How did that sound, Ron? All good?
Awesome. You're perfect at this.
Nice. I'm a natural. I'm getting used to it. I'm enjoying doing these shows. And like I said, I'm excited for next week as well. Because, you know, Serebii Joe's the guy to talk about for news.
How'd you manage to get Joe on?
I mean, much like you, we're friends. Also, I begged very much. He's a very busy guy. But I mean, you're like me. You're a kind of professional Pokemon fan. Is that how you describe yourself? How do you describe your YouTube situation?
I sometimes do call myself like a Pokemon professional. I mean, I'm also like technically we're Pokemon experts, even though I had to face the fact that I have to give myself these titles once I face the fact that I'm an artist. Like for a long time, even though I was literally an artist, it's kind of embarrassing. Not embarrassing. It's kind of like, it sounds not too humble to say you're an artist, because anybody can be an artist, or
sure.
You know, artists can maybe only be reserved to like the top masters of art. But if you're literally just doing art professionally, then you're an artist, you know? So, and that's literally what I do, I guess. So I had to face the same fact with being a Pokemon professional.
Yeah. So do you feel quite humbled to sort of be able to say, I'm a Pokemon professional? Or do you
it's just a fact, I guess.
It's just a fact.
It's a neutral. It's not a positive or a negative. Although it's a positive in terms of life.
Yeah. I have a lot of fun with it. I often say I'm a professional Pokemon fan, which is, when you're getting a haircut, you're in a taxi. Not that I've done either of those things in a long time. But whenever you're in those things, hey, what do you do? Oh, I do Pokemon stuff. I always get asked, do you play Pokemon Go? And that's the one that I don't play a lot of. And I'm sort of yeah.
That's how it is. I have to explain. I have to give analogies in about how Pokemon Go is just like a mobile app that has released after 20 30 Pokemon games before it. So
yeah.
And
those main games are sort of very much the ones that I'm always excited for, which segues us perfectly on, because it's Pokemon's 25th anniversary this month on the 27th. Is that right? 27th,
yes.
I think.
Yes.
As we're doing this live show, it's Mewtwo's birthday today, I think.
Yes.
February 6th. It's a happy birthday, Mewtwo! Hey!
Happy birthday! Hope you're doing well, my dude.
I hope you're doing well and not trying to destroy the world. I think he's over at this point.
He's over.
Mewtwo's good with it. But yeah, it's their 25th anniversary, and obviously now's the time to be excited, to get speculative, to kind of get your head in that zone of, okay, we've had Sword and Shield, we've had the DLC, what's next? And I guess that's the first question I'll pose to you is, what's next? What are you expecting? What's going on?
I usually expect what everybody expecting. I keep my expectations low or realistic, and that for the most part right now that means Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm always looking forward to any Pokemon game, and I know that I'm going to enjoy any Pokemon game that comes out. That's just my personal thing. Critically, I can be harsh or the opposite of harsh. What is the opposite of harsh? But in terms of enjoyment, lenient. That's true. That's perfect word for that. But usually I will still enjoy a game, and I think I will personally enjoy a Diamond and Pearl remake a bunch, especially since I think Diamond and Pearl have a lot of updating to do in terms of just bringing into the modern world. Personally, but we can talk.
Do you have any? Well, I mean, would you have any go-tos for that? Is there anything that you're just like that? We want to fix that up.
Oh, definitely like HMs, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Variety, I guess. HMs are number one. I think like I played Platinum this year, a few months ago, and that's the big flaw in that region, even though it's one of the best regions in terms of, exploration and aesthetic and music. If the HMs were, poker rides or a bike, I think this would be the perfect region for Generation 8 with like a little bit of like open world feel where you can just explore anything. It would be literally the opposite of Galar, I think, in terms of exploration, if there was no HMs.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, I enjoyed the Galar games. I didn't enjoy the maybe exploration side of it, which is something that I've been craving in Pokemon for a while. Is more exploration. Did you like Sword and Shield? Didn't you? You're generally right? Yeah,
I mean, I play Pokemon because I like Pokemon, so that means I'm gonna enjoy a Pokemon game. But I loved Sword and Shield. If we're ranking them, it's like in the middle in terms of like my favorite Pokemon games. But even my least favorite Pokemon game, I love. So I enjoyed it a lot. But yes, exploration is definitely my least favorite part of Galar. But the Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor too, I guess.
Yes,
I think that was their the main thing I loved about them. So I think we're in some kind of good direction.
No, I think so. And I think if you look at the Crown Tundra as not the best they can do, but a promise of what's to come, then I think it gives me a lot of optimism and hope for where Diamond and Pearl remakes could go. And I think what you said there about sort of, it's in the middle, but I enjoy even the kind of ones that are at the bottom. I think that relatively accurately describes my relationship with Diamond and Pearl and Pokemon in general as well. I've had people say that they're worried about Diamond and Pearl remakes, because I mean that's the one that everyone's like, this is what's happening. It's the one I've got my money on is Diamond and Pearl remakes. But people are sort of worried that and I thought about this a lot, and I just sort of go, well, if it's not good or if it's not what you like, you can always just play Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, I personally, in general, stay away from saying like, oh, this is going to like ruin the original game or my childhood, because it still exists. Sure. You can still play it in its entirety. Nobody's going to be like, oh, Sinnoh sucks because of this remake. I don't think anybody said, even if the people who don't like ORAS, nobody said, oh, Hoenn sucks in general because of ORAS. It was the opposite. People gained appreciation for the original a bit more, maybe, even though I personally really enjoyed Omega Ruby, and I am a Hoenn baby. That was my first region. So
you are. That was your first adventure, which is where your septile of your channel kind of logo is.
Sometimes I forget that fact, that there's a correlation between the two.
Yeah, it's septiles are the Hoenn starter. With Hoenn, I mean, that's a really great comparison as well. Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. It's not that far out of recent memory that happened, and Emeralds to, I mean, I think Gen 2, even up to Gen 5 in some extents, tend to be people's favorite eras of Pokemon, nostalgically. Gen 3 is at the heart of that, and obviously they did that update recently. What were some of the things you look at ORAS and you go, oh, I hope they would do that for Diamond and Pearl remakes?
Well, it's funny that some of the hopes that are based on what they did with ORAS, people don't want with the Diamond and Pearl remix. For example, integrating that generation's mechanic like Mega Evolution. I think they did a good job of integrating that into the plot or the post game mostly. I think it was a good idea that they didn't really, like, gym leaders didn't have Mega Evolutions. It wasn't really a big part of the main plot at all. So I don't know why people are afraid of Gigantamaxes and Dynamax Pokemon being part of the main plot. It could, but like, it's not gonna. I personally believe that it's not going to be like gym leaders having Dynamax Pokemon or in big stadiums or anything like that. I think it's just going to be reserved maybe to like story events like legendaries and starters being, Gigantamaxing, which is as cool as Mega Evolution. In some cases, I personally believe Gigantamaxing is cooler than Mega Evolution. I don't think the concept in general is better, but it's more of a spectacle in my opinion. And if any region, I mean, we've talked about it on your channel, if any region deserves Gigantamax forms for their legendaries and starters, it is the Sinnoh region, considering their starters are based on like myths and their legendaries are literally the gods of Pokemon. So I think it's very appropriate. And I mean, you can talk about if you want like how people's hesitation about the Dynamax Pokemon being only exclusive to Galar because of Galar particles. But I mean, what's the rationale behind it being in Sinnoh?
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of mentioned this on the channel before, and it very much is a case of, Galar particles are really just Eternatus particles, and Eternatus is a giant meteorite that arrived in, and that meteorite is in the underground of the Crown Tundra, and that seems to stretch out really, really far. You've got the Sinnoh underground, you've got legendaries appearing in the Crown Tundra, in the Dynamax lair that maybe have come from all across the Pokemon world. So the idea that particles are seeping underground into the honey trees of Sinnoh, much like the honey tree in the Isle of Armor, it's not unreasonable. It's not a hard retcon. And I agree with you. It's interesting. I think the next video coming out on the channel after this goes live on the channel is about the gym leaders Pokemon's and what they would look like with Gigantamax forms.
Yeah, maybe in the post game, I think they're gonna have Gigantamax forms.
But I think much like Oras, you're probably right in that they might well not do. I think Lucario will, because it's Lucario. And I think, and I think Cynthia's Garchomp, that's got to be a thing. That's absolutely got to be a thing. But, I think it will be reserved for legendary Pokemon and maybe some Pokemon we don't expect. Okay,
I think the Elite Four and not the Elite Four, I think the champion, just like in Oras, is going to have a Gigantamax form. And because that's the only place that the battle takes place at an actual like big location. It could be a stadium, it could be the castle, but the rest of the gyms, I don't know how they can turn that into Gigantamax capable gyms without overhauling completely. And even then, I like overhauls when it just adds more lore instead of taking away, like they did in Oras. I don't think they took away anything in terms of lore. They only added and made gave better context to things that already existed.
And like even with like Pokemon I love, first of all, the idea of how they'll ruin a Pokemon I love, you don't have to use the new form. But like Metagross, for example, is one of my favorite Pokemon. The Mega Evolution rocked. The fact that it was like the champion's main Pokemon made it rock even more, and I just thought it was great. There was no part of me that when this is somehow diminishing the experience of I don't know, past Pokemon games.
Exactly.
Which is but it'll be fun. I mean, is there any part of you, obviously, Downpour remakes, that's the main expectation. Is there any part of you that thinks that something different could be revealed this month?
Yeah. So the possibility in my mind is way less than Diamond and Pearl remakes, although I'm not like 100% on Diamond and Pearl remakes. I think, other options are obviously another Let's Go, but that is based on like sales and based on just like the model over the last few years. I don't think there's going to be a Let's Go, but it is technically still a possibility. And if it is Let's Go, it's going to be Let's Go Johto, and I don't think that wouldn't be the best. I'd still enjoy it, honestly, yes, but it wouldn't be. It would be on the bottom of my hopes. And then maybe I personally would love a Sword and Shield sequel, but that's a personal thing. I think just they set up sequels really well in that game. And if it's a sequel that like, because Game Freak may want to do a game where they get to reuse assets, so it's just gonna be a sequel, but like with a huge expansion, like just maybe. I mean, I guess in the same vein as Black and White 2, but again, very unlikely. It's a little bit less realistic, but it's still in the realm of possibility. If we're going to talk about like really unrealistic things, we can talk about that later. But like in terms of realistic, those are my options. I can't think of if it's going to be another main series game that isn't one of those three. It's going to be something out of left field, like Let's Go was. It's going to be something that we didn't expect, and there is a possibility that it's a good surprise. But honestly, Game Freak surprises are usually bad. But like it's rarely a surprise. Oh no, I'm talking about like in terms of announcement of a game. If it's a surprise, it's usually not 100% positive. But if it's within the game, if it's like a surprise within the game, like let's say Alolan Forms, that was a surprise, right? When it's a feature within the game, it's a surprise. That's usually good. But if it's a feature of like a new game that we didn't even consider, Game Freak doesn't have the best track record. Like
you say that, but I mean, it really felt like the first time they did that was with Black and White 2, and that seemed to. I mean, certainly, I don't know how. I can't really remember how it was at the time, but now it certainly looked back up very, very fondly, especially by yourself.
Definitely, that's the last time it was a good surprise. But I can't even think.
Okay,
but that was like the only. What was the last surprise before that? Even like, I guess Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that was good too. So I guess in the past, when it was during the peak of the quote unquote peak of Pokemon, yeah, the surprises were amazing. But nowadays, well, would Ultra Sun and Moon be considered a surprise? Yes, I personally think Ultra Sun and Moon are like my third favorite Pokemon game. I love Ultra Sun and Moon a lot. But in terms of like fan reception, that was not a good surprise. Let's Go wasn't the best surprise. It was an enjoyable game, but not the best surprise. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for a good.
What do you think about games? Moving away from main series for a moment, we've got. I've actually just thought something that makes a lot of sense to me would be a Pokemon Snap demo, ready for the release in April. I think that's probably highly, highly likely. But we know there's Snap, we know there's Unite. Is there anything else that you wonder?
I mean, they already announced all those things before the 25th anniversary, so they can't just not announce at least one or two more side projects, or side games or spin-offs. I mean, it would be cool if we had another side game, like instead of like Coliseum and XD Gale Darkness were like compatible with the main series games. That's, I guess, the definition of a side game. So something like that would be really cool. But yes,
what do you think about
a spin-off would be cool.
What do you think about ports of older titles? Because that's a kind of a very common trend, I think, at the moment with Mario and Zelda and other, it has been for the last sort of decade, is just a celebration, just port an old game on. What do you think about that sort of thing?
I totally forgot that I really do want a port for, Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. That would be amazing. I would love playing those on the big screen. It was because I used to play Emerald on the GameCube Game Boy adapter, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And that was always the coolest experience, playing Pokemon on the big screen. So it'll be very nostalgic if we get that. And also it'd be really cool to finally actually be able to use although you're able to use the Pokemon from Emerald, but it's a long path from Emerald all the way to Sword.
You are.
But I personally don't. I've never transferred a Pokemon up a generation. So
wow. Okay.
It would be cool to transfer Pokemon from Emerald to Sword and Shield or whatever.
You can do that though, like if you want. Like,
I know, but it's just a lot. It's a hassle. Because what you can't only do like 6 Pokemon at a time in the Pal Park, is it?
No, only on Diamond and Pearl. On Heart Gold or Silver, you can do as much as you want.
Oh, really? Okay, I do have that.
I'm very familiar with the process because I've done a lot of it, and it is tedious, and it's a very unrewarding tedium because you sort of get your Pokemon up there, and you're like, great, they're now in Pokemon Home, and great. What else is there for me to transfer up? But
now with Sword and Shield, at least you can have your Pokemon follow you in the DLCs. So I enjoy just like taking a Pokemon out for like a second, running around with them for like a minute while I maybe search for a Pokemon, and then putting them back.
I really enjoyed seeing Kartana in the overworld. Like, is there any Pokemon that you kind of saw in a overworld that you're like? I
love Metagross in the overworld. Oh my god.
Yes, completely agree.
That was what I was looking forward to the most, and when I finally found the Beldum and I was like trying to catch it, and then I realized, wait a second, your catch rate is ridiculous. But like literally, the Pokemon I was looking forward to the most to have in my party was the hardest to catch. It was a fun experience because when I finally got it, because it was worth the wait.
Oh man, good times. I kind of hope. I think that ports of old games, Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, maybe even up to Sinnoh. I think they are very, very possible. There were rumors last year about a anniversary kind of collection, and the thing is, my main reason for thinking it is Pokemon. One of the unique features of the franchise is that you can transfer Pokemon up from older games, but eventually the eShop, the Nintendo eShop, and the 3DS, version of Pokemon Bank, one day they will want to stop supporting that feature. They're not going to keep it going for another 50 years or whatever. And the idea that if you want to catch a Pokemon in Emerald and transfer it up, you can do, but you've now got to buy the Switch version. It's a great way to sell games. I think Red, Blue, and Yellow were the highest selling 3DS virtual console title ever. I think they, and then followed closely by Gold, Silver, Crystal. So it wouldn't surprise me if they sort of, how little work, I'm not saying it's no work, but how little work it must be for the amount of profit you would get in terms of just, all right, put those on for download and we'll just make, it's like there's another several hundred thousands, millions of dollars, snap, done, easy, didn't cost much to do. And the perfect kind of project for a company to work on, perhaps during a pandemic when they maybe can't be as ambitious. So I think that kind of thing is likely.
I think it fits a 25th anniversary for a home console release fits a 25th anniversary. I don't think they're gonna go straight from second gen and release both third and fourth gen at the same time. I think fourth gen would be released in a few years, especially since there was a big gap between generation 2 and also we still don't even have generation 3. So
I was wondering if what we might see to celebrate the year is downloadable today, Red, Blue, and Yellow. Downloadable in a month, or 2 months, Gold, Silver, Crystal. Downloadable in the summer, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and downloadable with your pre-order of the Diamond and Pearl remakes, Diamond and Pearl Platinum.
Maybe
something like that.
Maybe
pre-order it, you get the DP ones.
But I'd still predict, I guess, exactly what you said, except for the Diamond and Pearl remakes replacing the Diamond and Pearl home console. But you're right. You may be right, because I don't know how they would release a Diamond and Pearl home console a year or even 2 years right after they just released Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Yeah,
but
it just means that also next year, if they wanted to, not that this is super likely, but I've thought about it, then next year they could do the second half of that collection where they say, okay, now we'll do gens 5, 6, and 7 over the course of a year onto the Switch, and there will be no new games this year because we're busy working on Generation 9. I wonder if that's maybe looking too far forward. So I think that's a kind of very tame estimation. We'll get our
3 generations on home console is tame.
No, we'll get some kind of port, and I do think Diamond and Pearl remakes are very likely. What would be a kind of more dramatic thing for you? What would you really wish that if that would be cool if they did that?
Well, it would be just more of a dramatic version of the Diamond and Pearl remake with actual wild area, multiple wild areas, full 3D camera for every location, like the Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor. Actual, all the Pokemon finally coming back, every Pokemon in the Pokedex. So my over the top predictions or hopes is more just an over the top or maximum realism, which is just in an ideal world where Game Freak does everything that everybody wants, but also does what is predicted and is obvious. It's less of the ideal world and more of the positive world where just everything is good, everything is realistic, but everybody's happy and satisfied with what was given.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of specific things. For example, all of the mythicals getting some kind of or not all
event.
All of them getting some kind of episode in the post game or something like that. Where I definitely see realistically one, either Arceus or Definitely Arceus, honestly, because that's a missed opportunity, and like that would be like a pretty cool redemption. And they've the precedent's already set. We already got Deoxys, which was like a mythical, unobtainable before.
Yeah.
So or not unobtainable, but like unattainable for the average person.
Even with Virtual Console Crystal, getting Celebi, which if my wildest dreams, if they do port something like Emerald, that let's get that Deoxys Birth Island event, or let's get the let's get some of the Gen 3 events, which would be really, really cool, unlocked, as a thank you for buying this game again so many years after buying it originally. DP, though, I do wonder about whether something like a Darkrai, Manaphy, and Shaman event, whether they might try and pack those as like mini DLC as some kind, now that precedent isn't set, and that could be some troubled waters depending on how much they charge.
If it was like $15 and we got like an Isle of Armor type of thing in terms of length,
yeah,
that wouldn't be too bad, but it would be bad after already releasing a quote-unquote incomplete game, releasing another one. Especially since remakes never have DLC in Pokemon. DLC is like apparently supposed to replace, the third version. So now, like, and with that excuse, I can take it. But I'll support it. But like, if it's to just, have an excuse to not have a complete game every single Pokemon game, then yeah, that's a problem, and I wouldn't really support that idea. Yeah.
How would you feel about and I mean, I don't think it's likely, but definitely my wildest dreams, Colosseum and Gale of Darkness get ports or even a sequel would be incredible.
I mean, if we're starting to talk about like really unrealistic expectations, then yeah, I think that's a really unrealistic expectation. So yeah, I don't believe that could ever happen, honestly. When does is there any precedent for any other franchise where like a spin-off like side title gets a port? Like does Mario is there a Mario Kart remaster or a Mario Party remaster?
No, I guess not. But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily apples to oranges. I think each franchise does hopefully they'll do what their fans want. And
but I mean,
bring back to the titles that are very, very popular.
What fans want is a big open world MMORPG Pokemon game, and it's like,
I mean, what do you think about something like that in terms of like, look, it's 25th anniversary, and there's a lot of games, not really Nintendo games, that make a habit now about saying, look, we're not gonna release a new game every year. We're gonna create a platform game, which is like Fortnite or Halo Infinite or Overwatch, and hope that this game lasts us the next 10 years as we continue to release content into it and then sell that content to you in the form of like monthly subscriptions and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What would you think about something like that happening for Pokemon?
I'm always up for anything that a majority of Pokemon fans want. Like, even if it's something that I personally think is unrealistic, if it's like, I am up for an MMORPG. It's not like the direction I think Pokemon should go in, but it's like, if that is what everybody wants and they won't complain when it comes out and they'll enjoy it, then yeah, might as well. But I just don't think the model of Pokemon, which is, release games that facilitate merchandise and anime and all that, I don't think just one big open world with a minimum plot that can be anything you make it to be is a thing Pokemon would do. But, and this is a realistic thing, I think Generation 9, if we're not talking about 25th anniversary, if we're talking about Generation 9 in like 2 years or something, or a year, I think the next game is going to be more like the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, where it is fully 3D the entire camera the entire game. Yeah, maybe some non-linear story elements and maybe gym leaders, just like how in the Crown Tundra you have different, events that you can trigger on your own. And then also, just a little bit, it's going to be a step up in graphics, like it always is. It always is, even if the graphics never are up to par. It's always a step up from the previous generation. And like, I personally one of my favorite jumps was from generation. My favorite jumps in Pokemon in terms of graphics or just generations from generation to generation is the one that are the ones that are on the same console as the previous generation, because it forces Game Freak to be creative and just
so like
the
Gen
best
4
they
to
can.
Gen 5?
The Gen 5 from Gen 4, Generation 7 from Generation 6. Because
I agree with that.
Because you play Generation 6 and you're like, oh, this is pretty good graphic wise. It's pretty and whatever. And maybe like you don't expect it to be able to jump up as much as it did from between Generation 6 and 7.
Yeah, you sort of go, oh, this is what Pokemon looks like on the 3DS.
Exactly.
And then
Generation 7 comes out and you're like, exactly, and you're like, whoa, this looks way better. And it's like, oh, this is what it should have been. So I feel like this is gonna be the same thing with Generation 9, where I'm like, oh, this is what Generation 8 should have been. It's obviously a generation late. That's just how, like, I'm already used to it, even if it's a negative thing. Too late, I'm used to it. I think that's why I personally love those generations. I love Generation 5 and 7.
Pokemon is really good at taking on board feedback, and I mean, what people don't realize, though, I think, is necessarily that feedback gets taken on board, the next game and the next generation. It can't be, realistically, by the time that Pokemon have started revealing a game, they're getting ready to ship it. They're getting ready to, they're doing the final small tweaks. And so there's bigger things, Diamond and Pearl remakes, sure, they'll probably look pretty similar in the same way that Oras does to X and Y. But then, those Gen 9 games are going to be, hopefully, really quite fantastic.
I think. Sorry
to. No, go on.
If you wanted to move on, because this is a perfect topic. I think that I've always thought about, which is that generations are always a reaction to the previous generation, like Game Freak's reaction. So, I think like generations, let's say 6, is a reaction to people not liking the plot and the depth of Generation 5. So Generation 6 is more like bare bones and less plot heavy and more like a entry level in terms of like just the formula. And then Generation 7 is a reaction to Generation 6 and people wanting a plot again and people wanting more depth. And then Generation 8 is back to, a reaction to Generation 7 where people are like, oh, I didn't like how Generation 7 had too much plot, so let's have less plot. It's just like, it's a constant flux. It's like politics, honestly, where it's at least in America, where it's just like, you always go back and forth between like parties or just like groups of,
and each one is a response to the
previous administration, the previous like generation.
Yeah.
Well, that's generations in general. Like our generations is a response to our parents' generation, and their generation was a response to their parents' generation. It's always like that. So it's the same with Pokemon. It's very interesting.
I see that a lot, and I see that a lot in that, like, I mean, you think about like, let's say Black and White being a response to Platinum, and that we've built up to all of these godly super Pokemon, and now we just want a more relaxed, casual Pokemon adventure like Gen 1, so they do that with Black and White. But now that's too simple and too repetitive, so we want a more in-depth story. So we get Black and White 2, which is, quite a hardcore game from the Pokemon franchise, and then, well,
nobody bought that,
hardcore.
And nobody bought that game, so like, nobody bought the best Pokemon game, and therefore we got X and Y, which is great.
So there's like, so then we get X and Y, and X and Y, everyone's demanding, hey, wait, we didn't get a Gen 3 remake during Generation 5? How dare? Because I remember it was as early as after Black and White. People were saying Hoenn remakes, and then okay, so we're gonna get the Hoenn remakes, and okay, but now they are the way they are, so we move on to Sun and Moon, and then Sun and Moon could really do some more in-depth stuff. So we get Usum, which is kind of this hybrid between like DLC and a middle version, but attached into the game. It's a whole thing, and it just, every game is iterating on the last game. So when I see Sword and Shield, I don't see the negatives necessarily. I see that it's moving in a direction that I prefer right now, and that if the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra are a response to that, and that if Diamond and Pearl are a response to Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, the momentum is going to be really set for the next generation. The
people who are really anxious and afraid of the direction, and like I'm also like afraid of the direction of Pokemon in some aspects, and like I'm always hoping for Game Freak to address all the criticisms and all that. But the people who are the most afraid are the ones who didn't like Generation 7 and Generation 8, and they see this trend of Pokemon going quickly downhill. But like a person like me who really enjoyed Generation 7 and still enjoy Generation 8, I'm just less afraid of what's coming. So like, and it could be naive, but it's just a fact. It's like, I can't help but, have my expectation be based on my reaction to the previous game, and which is just like everybody else. Like everybody's expectation isn't based on like it's just based on the reaction to the previous game, not like objective facts.
No, sure.
Because we don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I mean, I feel optimistic because, in my opinion, like for me, Pokemon, and a lot of these things you can't realize until you're further away from them. But for me, Pokemon really did peak with Black and White too, and then X and Y felt like steps forwards in many ways and step backs in others. But then Sun and Moon, I felt was better than X and Y. And Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I felt was better than Sun and Moon. And there were elements of Let's Go that I much preferred to Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but that's, kind of a unique case. And then Sword and Shield, I much prefer to everything before it. And the DLCs, I prefer to everything before it. So I feel like we're moving in a good direction. It's just a shame that there maybe has been quite a few years where it's not been, in my opinion, as good in some ways as it used to be. I want to, we've got a few more minutes left, and just quickly kind of cover 5 years from now, we may well be on a podcast again. 20, what's that going to be? 2026? The 30th anniversary of Pokemon. Where do you think in 5 years this franchise is going to be? What are you thinking will be happening around then? And do you have any kind of far off wild predictions?
5 years ago, we were in Omega Ruby, right?
Omega Ruby was 2014.
Yeah. Oh, that's 6. So that's 7.
Yeah, 20.
Whoa.
2016 was Sun and Moon.
2016 was Sun and Moon. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 2016 was Sun and Moon.
Of course, it was 20th anniversary. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I should have just been thinking of 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years from 30. Okay, so what's the difference between Sun and Moon? I think Sun and Moon set up a lot of things that we have in this current generation, or that Game Freak is like finally experimenting with this generation. For example, in Sun and Moon, we had a lot of overworld Pokemon. They weren't ours, but there are a lot of Pokemon in the overworld compared to the previous generation. A lot of interactable Pokemon. The Pokemon world felt really fleshed out, and lived in Alola at least, and there was a lot of experimentation with Alola forms, and I think in Generation 5, we're going to get a lot of previous characters and stuff back. I think we're going to get a lot of new things that we didn't even expect, like, Alola forms. What's the next thing that you think that fans want? Because Alola forms were a thing people wanted. People wanted regional forms.
I mean, I think regional variants will keep going. I think Mega Evolution will return, and and Gigantamaxing will merge into a kind of ultimate form feature type thing.
I hope that they consolidate and find a good gimmick that can stay by then. I think it'll be relatively overworld compared to what it used to be, what Pokemon used to be. Definitely not full open world like people want, but it's definitely going to be by then 100% 3D camera. 3D, and every route being like a wild area, or at least big, and with Pokemon in the overworld. I mean, Pokemon, we already have that technically with Pokemon in the overworld in every route, and that's underrated. I think like we finally are in an era where Pokemon are in the overworld for every game and for every location.
It's now about just maybe getting them behaving more organically, I guess. Yeah,
well, they'll be interacting like they do in the trailer for Pokemon Snap. I think Game Freak will already have had experience with home console, and also just like having understanding, their process and how long to take for each game for it to not be, because Game Freak. I feel like Game Freak knows even more than the fans what their problems are, because we technically don't even know half of the problems that they have. Like Joe, for example, he's a researcher. He knows what's going on. People know what's going on if they are really researching and know the process of Game Freak, but the average fan doesn't know what the actual problems are within Game Freak, and I think Game Freak is starting to know, because I feel like Game Freak is more hard on themselves than you think they are in terms of what happened with Generation 8 and how they weren't able to be as ambitious as they could, and how they had some flaws in importing previous Pokemon and just the technical side of things. I think Game Freak is already going to solve whatever problem they have in terms of the creation of Pokemon games, or at least it's going to be way better in 5 years.
Yeah. I'm thinking 5 years' time, because I think next year is probably a break or some DLC. Then 2023, maybe Gen 9, 2024, DLC, 2025, something else. And then, 2026, what are we on now? Gen 8?
Yeah.
Is Sword and Shield? So I think Gen 9. So Gen 10. I think 2026, 30th anniversary, Generation 10, 1,000 Pokemon.
Definitely.
That's got to be the thing. I think those things are very, very likely. I
think we're going to have more variants in terms of not regional variants where it's a completely new type, but I think we're going to finally have Pokemon where different, you'll have size variations and slight color variations and pattern variations between some Pokemon, and just more
very cool
unique Pokemon in terms of just you can differentiate between your Lucario and your friend's Lucario.
I think that'd be cool. I could see that happening. So much between now and then. And hopefully we'll, still be here on YouTube and, here on Stereo making shows and talking about, what's coming next, which I just hope it's a fantastic 5 years. I have no doubt it will be. I'm looking forward to, obviously, this month, and I hope everyone listening and watching is looking forward to this month. And both of our channels will be covering, I'm sure, whatever gets revealed and gets released, and we'll be getting excited together as a community. But I think that sort of feels like, we're hitting the end. So I just want to say again, thank you, Ron, for joining me.
Hopefully I wasn't rambling too much.
No, me neither. I realize I run a show and I'm the worst person to do it because I ramble. So no, and the whole point is that we bring you on to have a chat with you and get your expertise. So sincerely, thank you very much.
No problem. It was very fun.
I also, of course, want to say a quick thank you to Stereo, who sponsored this show. It's an app. You download it. There's live audio shows. You can interact. You can send in voice clips, and we can play them on the show. If you want to listen to some of the existing shows that we've got, I've done one with Mr. Hoops and Hip Hop, where we talked about creating our own Fakemon region and his Pokemon Cardinal project. And next Saturday, the 13th of February, 2021, at 6 p.m. GMT, I'm going to be sitting down with Mr. Serebii Joe to talk about what it's like to be the sole person, covering the news on the biggest Pokemon website during a reveal cycle time, what that's like, what it's like dealing with fans from all across the kind of Pokemon fandom, and what it's like to run that website. It's something that I really don't think you're going to want to miss. So again, click that link in the description to check out the Stereo app, download it. It supports the channel. And again, thank you, Stereo, for sponsoring this show and all the future ones as well. I think that's about it. I think that's the Wants to Battle show. So, thanks for watching, and so hi, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.
A tremendous thank you to those of you who are supporting this channel financially, whether that's through merchandise or Twitch subscriptions or, of course, Patreon. And a big thank you to the big patrons of this month, JD Gottlich and Michael Hornschurch. Thank you.